find them if I was looking on the
whoa,
internet.
Whoa. Can we just do that intro again? Because I forgot to go live.
Look at that. Look at that. Okay, I saw nothing. Let's try that all again, okay? Welcome to, of course, Edge Radio Australia. It's time for the Greater Wealth. Travis Carter in charge of pressing buttons over there, and clearly he's very professional. We're going to go through who we've got on the show today. He is special. Again, you look after that part of it. I do appreciate it. Go with that.
Maybe.
Going around the room, of course, my name's Aaron. Lovely to have your acquaintance. During the show, we'll get people obviously on and we'll get their comments on. I have Richie to my right. Great to see you there, mate.
Great to see you guys too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely our pleasure. Now, the man who this show is basically around, because let's face it, he's got these awesome services there at Blue Sky Factory, educational stuff to get you onto, well, basically find your life purpose. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here again. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And the travesty.
Okay. And now I've just spoken about pleasure. Now we'll talk about pain. Travis Carter, great to have you here, mate.
Hi.
Thank you for that. All right, let's jump straight into the show.
Words of wisdom all the way.
Words of wisdom. Oh,
someone's been messing with my microphone. It's like in a weird spot.
No, jeez. It's,
not in a good way either.
Just leave your stick alone. All right, let's jump straight into the show. We've got some great subjects to talk about. Well, some important stuff. Where are we going to travel first there, Derek?
Let's start with the guru himself, Warren Buffett. Of course, he's regarded as the oracle of the industry.
Right.
He's regarded as the guru of all. He's rumored to be sitting on $278 billion in cash right now.
In cash,
which is really interesting.
Just a little bit.
He's been offloading a lot of stock. It started with Apple.
It did.
And he's slowly been doing that. And then recently it's been more of Bank of America. He's cut his stake by nearly 15%.
These are big numbers.
These are big numbers. And what's interesting when they do this is, of course, they can't do it all of a sudden.
No.
Right? They have to, because they're whales in the stock market. And if they do, it creates a big splash. If everybody found out that Warren Buffett's now selling, $6 billion worth of stock, it's like, hit the sell button.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're not going to get the price they want because liquidity is such a big issue when you're sitting on such a big size.
Sure.
So they've got to drip feed it through. They do it slowly but surely.
Because otherwise you'd be seen as manipulating the market. We would never have that happen, of course. That would never happen. No.
Well, the emotions are very, very strong on Wall Street, right? Greed and fear drive the markets. And of course, the market tends to always overreact. So if there's greed,
sounds like my ex-wife.
What's that?
Sounds like my ex-wife.
If there's fear, it's sell. And of course, its reaction it's kind of smooths out after a while.
No.
But yeah, he's been doing this. And there's a lot of speculation as to what does he know? Why is he doing this? Why is he slowly getting rid of Bank of America? Why is he slowly getting rid of Apple? And of course, it always comes up in those rumors, does he know about a stock market crash and is sitting on the sidelines to basically let it crash and then go back in and gobble it all up? Is that what's going on? And
there's something going on in November. I don't know if you've noticed, but something in America is happening. It's one of the big,
some little events happening.
Yeah, a little event. Yeah, we'll call it little. Yeah. And it might just change the stock market a touch.
That's a great point too, because there is that side of it, and of course the Democrats don't want the market to crash before the election.
No,
that would look
no.
really bad. They've already got a PR issue at the moment.
Oh,
they don't want further things like that crashing, because it just plays into the hand of Trump, who goes, well, what do you guys know about the economy? On the flip side of that, there have been rumors floating around on social media that they'll want to crash it after Trump gets in to make him look bad.
Sure.
So how substantiated those rumors are, they're interesting to keep in the back idea. As I always say, these are the opportunities where people can, if they know what they're doing, can make a lot of money.
Of course,
when the market's crashing. We made a lot of money back in March of 2020 when the market crashed, and that's always a funny position to be in when everybody's hitting panic button and you're cleaning up. It's a smart way to do it, in my opinion. And I think it's interesting to see Berkshire is saying basically we're going to sit on the sidelines. We're not seeing anything we want to buy yet. It's just a case of when there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. Well, obviously that's saying quite a lot. We're going to hold tight. And what I do teach in my trading course is that basically not having a trade on is actually a trade.
Oh, that's a curious way of looking at it. Okay.
Because it's protecting capital, and it's all about that. And so if they're nervous about what's going on, that's actually what we will define that as a trade. We'll
I'll
take
give
that
you
on
just
as a
an
trade.
observation in terms of preserving capital. I don't know if you're following the gold price as well.
Yes.
As I saw last week, JP Morgan put out an announcement to their professional investors to start allocating into gold.
Mm.
So we know that when there's allocations to gold, there's always a bit of a sign that something might be coming.
No doubt
It's
about
a
it.
great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the central banks have been gobbling it up for years.
That's right. That's right.
There's been an acceleration of that, though, as far as the
I think
the
the
gold being
fiat
put aside.
Ponzi scheme is starting to, the emperor's no clothes is starting to play out, isn't it?
Very, very true.
That's a
But
very good
you've
point.
also got to take into account when you start looking on the political side of things as well. Don't forget that you've got a rising power in the BRICS nations as well, which for about 3 or 4 years now have been massively buying gold reserves.
That's right.
Well,
And
then you've
dual
got
precious
countries like
metals.
New Zealand
Mhm.
who have sold all their gold, so they've got none.
And what they're doing is going back to gold standard.
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
Putin did in Russia when he had to protect the ruble from crashing because he couldn't trade with it all of a sudden when they locked him out of SWIFT. It's like, well, what do I do with this ruble? And everybody's trying to dump it, going, look, we don't want it because they can't trade
That's
with
right.
it, right?
Yeah.
So he's going, right, it's on the gold standard, bang.
Well, look,
Zimbabwe's done the same.
right. I mean, I am no expert, but I mean, to my mind, the petrodollar, there's got to be a crash. Okay, honestly, when you see that, okay, now 3/4 of the world have signed on with BRICS. You see all of that going on. You see the fact that America just keeps printing money hand over fist. Forgetting about inflation. To me, I don't know. And when you see so many other countries now trading their energy with BRICS nations with different currencies, petrodollar to me, I can't see it. I cannot see it maintaining its position as the leader, as the center of things.
We've thought of things like that for many years,
Mm.
but the old saying, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. There's a lot of things what America does in terms of the markets. The Fed, they buy stocks. They do a lot of things to help support the US dollar as well. Timing is always going to be a hard one, but I guess you've got to be positioned, like you were saying before, for protection, for be ready when it does happen.
So opportunities, the case
An opportunity,
may be.
that's right, because it is going to be a wealth transfer,
course.
and things like gold, precious metals, and other assets can be like that bridge to the next system. You know what I mean, and ensure that you don't get wiped out.
So one thing you've also got to remember, like for example, Australia primary export is iron, mining, a few horticultural things like wool, wheat, stuff like that. But when you have a look at what America's #1 export is, it's actually money.
Right.
So
I thought-
80% of America's money isn't in America. So many countries are so tied to the US dollar, having that transfer from, let's say, BRICS or India, China, or another country becomes the reserve currency. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a Pantene moment. It's going to take a long time. I reckon it'll probably take a couple of decades.
One indicator, though, also is obviously the inflation. We can see inflation's going out of control around the world. When you get to that traditional old like hockey stick moment of runaway inflation, like they had in Zimbabwe and all of those other countries, you'll see a lot of that US money that's around the world will come back to the US, right? To come back, and then you'll see a perpetual rise in prices. That'll be a very strong signal that we're pretty much at the end of the fiat.
I actually thought that America's main export these days was pronouns.
Or weapons. Weaponizing pronouns.
Exactly. Now, I see people, obviously we can only see one feed here, but those who are jumping on board on whatever feed that you're on there, feel free to jump in. We'd love to see your comments or questions. It would be fantastic to answer those as we go.
It's been a bit of a funny one because it keeps jumping up and going down, jumping up, going down, and there's a bit of a flicker. So I'll have to go troubleshoot that one later.
I don't think it's big drama. As I say, this is only one particular
I've
feed.
checked the stream and it's coming through fine. So that's all good.
All right.
The other one that just on that one, talking about the reserve currencies and all that stuff, with Buffett taking his money out, and apparently there's a couple of others that have done it as well. I'm wondering if they're gearing up to go to the reserve, to a digital currency.
Yeah.
Are they intentionally tanking the US dollar on the transfer?
Could be. I did hear a lot of people saying, that Trump's against the digital currency, CBDC. So I think that might not be the avenue they'll go through to try and save the dollar. They might instead, which they've talked about in Congress, is introducing a crypto dollar backed through the banks. Using like JP Morgan and them creating their own digital currencies rather than the Fed doing it themselves. As a way to usher in CBDCs as well. So.
Well, you've got to remember a couple of weeks ago, we showed the Bitcoin 2024 conference, and they were saying they had proposed legislation that America owns 5% of Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. And certainly Trump has been sounding the trumpet, no pun intended, to be the leader in the development of cryptocurrencies within there. Because if they control cryptocurrency and its development and mining, then they have, of course, effectively the petrodollar in a crypto form. I think that's their next strategic move. I think that's where Trump's going.
To gain security for it?
Yeah. I don't think security, I think it's control.
Sorry?
Yeah, I don't think it's the security for the US dollar. I think it's control for the next currency they're coming through.
Yeah, it's hedging against that that change, because if you want to be at the forefront, you've got to be able to develop that. There's an old rule in banking, in central banking, that he who controls a currency has power.
Yes.
So that's what's the thing at play. Who owns the most of these cryptos? Who's mining the most? Who can gear up? And we're seeing Russia on the other side legalizing the fact that you can mine crypto now and moving in that space, because it's doing transactions in crypto, because how else, if it's locked out of SWIFT, how's it going to interact with other nations?
Yep, very, very true. Okay.
I still think crypto's not be the cash of the digital world.
Yeah,
you think it is, or it isn't?
I think it will be.
It will be.
So I think they'll try to control like the central bank digital currencies and all those standard ones like Bitcoin as well. I think currencies like Ethereum, and there'll be a few others that will come up along the markets. They're going to be the decentralized currencies, the ones that effectively will be the cash.
Yeah, I'm still always in two minds about, you know, the other cryptos and that. I just think it is a freedom aspect to it, but there's also a dragnet aspect to it. I kind of think they let the last 10 years happen. A lot of people get rich to get used to the idea of a digital money system,
exactly.
Right?
True.
And then pull the rug later.
Yep.
You know, so there's other things in terms of there's privacy coins as well, which is another avenue about privacy.
Yep.
They're dead against that. But yeah, in the meantime, it's definitely a source of asset protection. Put it that way.
I think people need to learn about it. I think it's just getting too big to get rid of it now.
I think the key is diversity. Of course.
Well, I think one of the big reasons, what was always in the back of my mind is, will the government, you know, Australia, government, America, whatever, rule them out, just like China did. But they've actually found them very useful to tax.
That's right.
So they're like, no, we'll let them go.
As long as they can make money out of it, they're happy.
Yeah, we'll take
just like the drug trade.
Take our cut from it.
But it's true. I mean, honestly, America has used, you know, drugs as currency for a very long time.
Right? Just ask Obama.
Oh dear.
Michelle or Michael?
Bit of both there. Get those questions in, all those comments through social media. Really appreciate that. And it's actually funny. I was a little side note on this one. I was at an event. In fact, you were there too. Funny enough, just the other night, we're chatting to people, and it was actually a couple of people I had no idea were followers and watched the show religiously. And in fact, I was actually talking to someone yesterday who was also explaining. So for those people who are sitting there in the background and watching the show, make some comments. Love to hear your questions. But it's quite interesting. I didn't realize people that might not be, wouldn't be at the front of my mind when I'm thinking about finance, you know, really do enjoy the show. And I think that maybe it's the link, you know, to finding your life purpose and so forth. So I really thank you for that, mate. You know,
oh, thank you. No, I was really inspired by someone's. I was really inspired that we had a technical issue there.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, it's called Travis.
I was really inspired by someone's comment the other week, and said, you know, you guys give me hope. Now I thought I'm a little bit. I don't take on feedback too much, because I know for every compliment there's often an abuse, right? So okay, don't take it too much to heart. But I thought, you know, that's a comment that someone is not criticized, that you give me hope. And I think that's really important to understand as we're going through these changes right now. These are big deals that stuff that we're talking about, right? And we've talked about CBDCs. We've talked about, you know, there is a lot of fear that can be attached to that, and it's losing the fear. It's not being motivated by fear. Fear is the thing. If you're motivated by fear, you're like all the punters on Wall Street who are motivated by greed and fear. It's a case of being detached from that and going, I need wisdom here. I need wisdom. This is why we call it the greater wealth. I need wisdom in terms of what decisions to make.
Sure.
How can I detach the emotions from the process? And then, but more importantly, how does it tie into my life purpose? What am I really meant to be doing on this life? And I think that's so important. And remembering, guys, that for all the fear that's out there at the moment, there is so much opportunity.
Oh, thoroughly.
It's so exciting. We're in a really fascinating time of history.
Well, I'm interested to find out, you know, Richie's thoughts on that, mate. With everything that is changing, you know, do Do you move forward in life with fear, or do you see opportunity, or do you see change? Well, you tell me. your
Yeah,
words.
I don't buy into the fear narrative, because I'm of the belief, you create the future you want to see, right?
So true.
So we have to, like steal a phrase from PBD, the future looks bright. We have to keep that when we're in the back of our minds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When every day, because it's just the human collective. The more negative energy begets more
So
negative
true.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I just strive to do every day. Just go out there, try and bring some positive, make some kind of positive change, amplify voices.
Sure.
Things like people are definitely trying to do something good. So yeah.
So
Nice.
one of the things I do want to throw on top of that one is most people fear something because they don't understand it. It's a strange thing. It's like they're self-preservation pretty much.
Okay.
And I find the finance markets, the stock market, housing markets, all these different markets are exactly the same. Even when you go through and you have a look at the political side of things, people don't like politics because they don't understand it and they get scared of it. They try to walk away. They put their head in the sand. They ignore it. But politics, like finance, controls everything you do. If you got money, you can do whatever you want.
Yep,
if you
freedom.
don't, you
It
can't.
does buy you freedom.
So, and I think it was you that said it was happy tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more money you've got, the more happy tickets you have. So yeah, obviously it doesn't bring freedom. It brings absolutely amazing happiness. But the point I'm making here is just like with politics, to stop that fear, you've got to understand it. You've got to train yourself. And there's a lot of government interference trying to stop people from understanding it, especially in the schooling systems. So I think that's one of the reasons why people like this show so much, is because we are brave enough to talk about what the like mainstream media and other people don't want to talk about. So we are bringing that education to people to give them the ability to go, you know what, this isn't a scary situation. This is what's going to happen.
Yep.
And these are the steps I can take to either A, preserve myself, or B, make a lot of money out of it.
It's a great point. And if you
Yeah.
can think of it as a game, I think that really helps as well in terms of finance. So when I used to do radio full time, I used to go into a shift and think, all right, because you have to stay very self-motivated when you're in a padded room talking to yourself all the time.
You
right?
do. You really do.
Keep it interesting.
There's a
for you.
reason why the room's padded.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay.
And so I kind of treat it like, if it was a computer game, I'm going into my latest score, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of find that kind of mindset when it comes to finance helps me stay very balanced.
Okay.
Because it keeps the fun element in it for me. And therefore you go, oh, this didn't work out the way I wanted to. Okay, how do I fix this? How do I get around this? Can I go through it, over it, under it, around it? How am I going to get through this hurdle right there?
Thoroughly agree.
And that's business
It is.
in anything.
Also mastering your emotional state too, because I found because I did before COVID and first part doing trading and things like that, learning about trading and other things. The number one before you do any trading is the emotional aspect. You have to understand emotion, fear and greed. When you go and when you're playing the markets, because that's the big element in the markets. When I study the charts, you can see I've been able to discover human emotion in the charts. You can see it, right? And those who don't understand it, unfortunately, lose. And it's definitely a wind in your sails if you can understand the emotion side.
Yeah,
of it.
but hang on. But Richie, you're so laid back. You made Bob Marley look highly strung. Okay, now come on.
It's definitely a learning process. I'm not going to lie. There was times in the beginning, where emotion did take over. But it's just practice and learning, and like you're saying, with the knowledge and learning, you'll improve. So.
We're human. There are moments where we're human.
The best thing I ever learned to do is turn my phone off, put my phone down, and walk out of the house. Just walk to the end of the street, and by the time you get back again, like you've gone past that adrenaline rush, your hands have stopped shaking by the time you get back, and then you can right, I'll turn the phone back on, I'll have a look at what's going on, I'll read the news again, and I'll look at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Funny story on that. One time I was trading with a particular person who you guys have had on the show before.
Right.
And it was like 4 in the morning.
Right.
And
I definitely know who this is. There you go.
So was it Pinot or champagne?
So we're at my house. We at that time were living up in the hills, had a beautiful view of the city and this sort of stuff. And we're living in this old house up there. And I had this one room dedicated for my little office. So we hop outside at 4 in the morning, kind of like take a breather from the markets for a bit. And I left my wallet on the table and the keys and everything like that. And we stepped out, and this old door Jimmy locked outside. And we could see the markets on the computer screen. We could see what's going on and going, And we can't get back into the house. So my then pregnant wife, very pregnant wife, was fast asleep, and we had to wake her up at like 4:30 in the morning, and she wouldn't stir for a while because she thought it was the possums in the roof mucking around. Finally, she gets up. We go, "What are you guys doing here?"
That's murmurs of the market. Those noises.
When you got 6-digit figures on the market, you're locked out, and you're going, "You got the keys?"
No, like literally
Smash
locked out.
They're on the desk there.
You know what? A window's not that expensive.
No, let me go straight through that one. Oh wow! Now we've got some other subjects to talk about today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about housing pricing. Okay, because this is something that's dominating Australian life to such a big degree. I can vouch for that.
Hey, I done well.
All of us can.
I did really well.
Yes, you did. But on that point, you did really well because it was an investment property that you bought well. And so much of what we're talking about
we took absolutely 100% of the motion out, just like what Richie was saying. So just so Richie's got a bit of a background on this one, there's about 2015. I was doing a lot of foreign exchange trading at the time. The banks wouldn't accept my income for funding of the mortgage. So we're like, right, we're $180 a month short. How do we get around this? And so we thought, you know what? Monthly mortgage repayments at the time $50,000 was only like $50 a week. So I said, right, what's the cheapest house we can find in WA? And a set of duplexes in Gerald came up. They were rat shit. They were terrible. Half the walls were falling in. The doors had been kicked in. And so we got both duplexes for $70,000. Oh. And so the condition of the sale was that the real estate agent had to give us a rental valuation on how much we would get if they were livable. And so we got $180 a week. So obviously they take 70% of that. So that was the required amount that we needed to actually buy the house that we've got in Perth.
Over. Right.
So what we did, we just took the motion totally out of it. What do we need to do to achieve our goal? So we kept our eyes on the prize and worked around it to make sure we could do it.
Well, my couple of points on this is, okay, it's not what you sell things for, it's what you buy them for. And that's very much the case there.
Well, $1 saved is $1 earned.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So that's one part of it. The other part is that, so a lot of people right now are very excited about what they're selling their house. Oh my word, I can get this magic, massive number. Yeah, but okay, you're living in it, all right? Yeah. So when you still have to, you've got to live somewhere, you've got to sleep somewhere, right? So the market might be, the numbers might be going up, but when you're moving from one house to another, you're moving sideways in the market, not up. So these numbers look impressive, but you're really not in a better situation. In a lot of the cases, you're actually in a worse situation.
The average house price in Australia at the moment is $959,300. Okay.
Right. Well, that the 300 at the end. Yeah. Okay, that's my budget. So that's how short I am. This is.
I thought you were like 5'6", to be honest.
Excuse me, I'm not 5'6". Where'd you come up with that?
5'5" then.
I'm 5'10". No, actually,
there's no way you're 5'10".
I'm getting the tape measure up.
6 inches.
Well, I won't answer that. I'll let that go. Anyway, let's talk about those housing prices and how it affects everyday Aussies, mate.
Well, it's interesting the states that have had the biggest increase quarter of quarter. Western Australia has been massive. It's been about 39.2% in the average house price in the year. Those are big numbers. You're looking at an increase of about 14,300 on capital if you take the average house price across Australia. The cheapest place to live at the moment is Northern Territory. It's in March of 2024. Average house price was 511,400, and this in New South Wales, if you look at the top end, you're looking at to get in to buy an average house. It's not a fancy mansion or anything, but you're looking at 1.2 million.
To get in,
just over 1.2.
To get in
million.
Where?
Sydney.
Yeah.
That's an entry level house.
That's entry level. That's not. Well, it's an average house. Put it that way. It's not a mansion.
No, that's a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom. 45 minutes away from the city.
Oh, I remember. This is 15, 16 years ago roughly. But my brother bought a place in Melbourne, and he paid $360,000 for this house. It was I think a 3x1 kind of little shed out the back, and I'm like, dude. I think they saw you coming, wow, where those houses were kind of 200,000 in Perth at the time. You just see this acceleration of pricing, and it's not obviously going with wages. This is the thing. Now you need the same. What you used to be able to buy a house for is now your deposit, right?
And I think that's the biggest issue is how sustainable is it? And I'm expecting it to cool off. It really depends on how many migrants they let into the country.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to do something. It's
and
getting
interest rates as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. I have to say Shane Love from the Nationals came up with a not a bad policy to scrap all, because at the moment stamp duty capping is only to a certain level, just all of it across the board. Because the speed at which the houses are going, like you'll raise the level of where you're stamp duty free. It's just going to be met within 12 months anyway. So just scrap the whole entire lot for first homeowners.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's also got to be a social shift as well. You can't be looking to be buying at your first home within an hour of the city unless you're looking at a unit. Like having
or mum and dad have money.
Yeah. That would get your mum and dad to give you a crap ton of money. But you need to have like a third and a fourth source of income to be able to afford a house. If you're buying your first home to be your forever home.
My advice to people is don't buy, because I think we're such a market now. The dynamics are so different, because we've had an uptick in prices, but we've had a combination, obviously, of the influx of migrants, but also COVID supply chains as well. You've got issues with building, materials, and then building approvals, which is also feeding into that as well. Obviously, we know about the tax advantages, tax incentives. That's been 2 decades now of building up this market. We're at this point where now something needs to give. The whole system is teetering on a so to get in now would be very scary in my opinion.
Yeah, but the stupid thing is, right, okay, as far as I actually take your point, and I'm on board, to be honest.
It's not sustainable.
No, not at all. But okay, they won't give a loan to someone, won't give a 30-year mortgage to someone because they can't afford, $2,000 a month, but they'll charge them $3,000. That same person's paying $3,000 a month or whatever, whatever the figure, 50% more in the actual rent.
The finance industry is very. So on the rental side of things, there's no real regulations of what you can charge. It's just whatever the market wants to charge, they'll charge. So, but on the finance side of things, because of the Royal Commission to the mortgage industry, a lot of rules and regulations were put in because people want to make sure that the homeowners weren't getting taken advantage of by the banks, they weren't being ripped off. So it became an extremely regulated system.
Okay.
So even though you could be paying $4,000 a month for rent, but even if you can afford that, because you've got to meet certain criteria, like you got to know your customer, where's your income coming from, have you got financials for this? A lot of the income that people like us would actually normally use wouldn't be acceptable as a source of income.
That's right.
So things like my foreign exchange trading, which I was doing, wasn't acceptable. My options trading that I'm doing at the moment, unless I've been doing that for like 5 years or so, and I can produce reports every single year, not acceptable. We have multiple businesses and we have our income coming through multiple different businesses. We can't get all 5 businesses to be paying like on the loan for a single house. So at the moment, we wouldn't qualify for a mortgage.
Crazy.
So I think we're like with what's going on in the US, we know there's murmurs. I hear a lot of economic pundits talking about a Big Short 2.0 style crash in the US, because you've got issues with the real estate commercial market in the US. I've just seen in Manhattan buildings that sold for $800 million in 2006 just sold for $8 million.
Oh no!
So there's a huge, because obviously COVID, etc. in the US. Cities like that are finished in terms of the commercial market. So, and there's also
how do you mean though? Explain that further.
Which part?
Like why they're finished in?
There's just no businesses in that.
Well, yeah, they've killed the businesses. And everyone's moved out, and it's just gone to shit.
You see so many businesses that were, for argument's sake, in California have now moved to Florida, particularly, and Texas, right? So you see that big movement, and you're getting that in New York City as well.
But it's the effect of, because obviously those assets are on the books of people. They need to have the high price to keep their books up. So you're going to have that cascade effect, and there's talks of it. Some banks will go under as well. So if we get a kind of Big Short or style 2.0 in the US, that'll cascade into Australia. And I think this time we're not going to be immune like we were last time. And that could wipe Aussie housing prices down by 50%, and that would only take us back probably 9 years. Maybe less than that.
The other side of that too is China. China financially is really in a bad space. Now, of course, they buy our dirt. And so if they're not buying our dirt, if there's a downturn there for whatever reason, then that will affect jobs and serviceability on the housing market.
Well, the housing market in China is almost farcical, really. The amount of those empty cities that are doing nothing. And
the Evergrande debacle.
Yeah.
So obviously if they crash in the US, then, they got to dramatically cut rates and it's going to have an effect onto Australia, but they're going to have to go over a whole new round of QE again to try and save the system, which will further, in the interim, you'll have a crash, but then we could have exponential price growth, and that could lead to another phase of, you know, like the last 5 years over again. You know, it's just whether people will believe the whole printing, you know, scenario again, whether that will work this time. It may not work this time.
Sadly, I think it will, because most people just don't think about these things. They really don't. You know, I mean, to me, and I want to make this clear, as far as we look at crashes and the word crash, everybody thinks doom and gloom, whereas, you know, we're sitting here and many of us here will think of that as an opportunity. I mean, if you prepare yourself, you're cashed up, so to speak. When these crashes go in, you get in there, you dollar cost average, and you go hard.
Look what Buffett's doing.
But the thing is,
a ton of cash.
You got to remember, it's not a crash. The Australian market is so overinflated out there. I mean, it's actually just a market correction.
They're not real prices. They're like a fugazi, you know, with Wall Street, the fugazi prices. It's all made on the margins, right? In areas, and obviously areas specific, depending on how many people, levels of mortgage debt, etc. You know, there's a few pundits out there that do good data on suburb analysis from every area, because obviously real estate prices, we know it's area specific. Not every area is going to crash, you know, because a lot of people don't need to sell. So it's that's the factor as well.
Well, you haven't made a loss until you sell, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah.
So, and the other cool thing is, if you're trying to find a silver lining in this, so one of the leading indicators why we sold Geraldton in the first place was our rates and everything, and the cost to keep the houses up there got really, really bad. So we were losing about 40% of our income from the houses just in land rates. So we went, you know what, stuff it, we're out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the leading indicators why we sold.
This is one of my greatest whinges. Go on.
When the house market comes back down, because a lot of people don't know this, your rates are actually based off the estimated rental value of the house. Correct. So all your rates don't come back down.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm trying to find a silver lining to a property crash here, but and then all the millennials might be able to afford a house.
Okay, well,
it just means we'll have to live with it within our means now. You know,
come on, that's crazy talk, Richie. Come on,
spoke like a true capitalist.
Brilliant. Now, I believe you got another subject for us to jump down the path there, Derek.
I do. It's been really, really interesting in relation to what's happening in US politics of late, and of course,
that means we've got a video.
We do have.
Have we got a video?
Yeah. The Democrats made a proposal some time ago about the billionaires tax. And what they would try to do with the billionaires tax is tax unrealized capital gains of wealthy Americans. And that is really become a big concern, because under the current rules is that, you know, any appreciation of an asset, you're talking cryptocurrencies or stock or real estate, that's not taxed until it's sold. Right. Okay? That's what we call realized. But what they're trying to do is tax it before it's realized. That's why they call it unrealized. So what's going on is it's called the Biden's administration General Explanations of the Administration's Fiscal Year 2025 Revenue Proposals. There's a mouthful for you.
It's catchy. It's catchy.
It sounds like a standard sentence for Biden. Ice cream.
And basically it would tax paper gains on assets that are sitting in an account but haven't been sold yet. But imagine this, like, so you had $100,000 worth of stock.
Yes.
Okay. On an America's financial year is January 1. By December 31, it hits 125,000. They are taxed on that 25,000, even though they never sold it.
Right. Now, what happens if you hold on to it and then a year later it drops down to 80,000? You paid that tax on.
This is the unknowns in all of this. And this is the problem with it, because you don't actually know where you quite stand. And if you haven't liquidated it, how are you supposed to pay that tax, for goodness sake? Now they're saying, oh, it's okay. It'll just apply to the billionaires and this sort of stuff. And what it doesn't realize, most people don't realize, is most of these billionaires are not sitting in cash like Warren Buffett right now.
That's right.
They've got money in assets, because otherwise they're subject to inflation and they're losing money because it's just sitting in a bank account, which is offering very little.
I wanted to ask you that about why would Warren Buffett sit on that much cash? Because he's effectively losing money. So, I mean, I get it.
He's probably transferred it all to gold.
To be in a position so he's ready to buy, right? I get that. Okay. But, you know, would you do that? You wouldn't do that on a long term.
I wonder if he's trying to buy a country.
Good. Who knows? Got one for sale.
Maybe he's just going to retire now and donate it all and give it all away.
That's right. You know what? You just send a little email to Albo at Australian government.
Going cheap.
That's right.
Just got to pay off the Chinese first.
The silly thing about this is it discourages people to invest.
Of course it does.
Right. The second thing that's silly about it is that these billionaires are often investing in businesses and
Mhm.
companies, which create jobs, for
Yep.
employment for people in the marketplace. So taxing them on that, punishing them for doing business there, the big concern is that money just goes elsewhere. It goes
course it does.
international for
Has
other
to.
opportunities where it's not so crazy. And that's what they're risking here by doing this kind of proposing.
So yeah, I mean, look, and people want security, obviously, you know, and with the instability in the US at the moment, we talked about the election coming, right? And you know, in my eyes, and I mean, granted, this is my opinion, but I mean, yeah, another 4 years under the Democrats, I can't see how anybody could feel any security at all. I really don't.
Well, it's a great opportunity for the Republicans. If we see what DeSantis has said
Okay.
about this, it's quite an insight in terms of their take on the matter.
Let's have a
Are
look.
we doing this?
Yes, we are
Let's
doing
go.
this.
I think it was this one, and we hit the play button. Hit the.
I don't know what's going to happen with the national economy going forward. I can tell you, if you have somebody like Harris actually try to do something like tax unrealized gains, that will tank this economy. We will feel that in Florida big time. You will have capital flee from this country. And here's the thing. First of all, an unrealized gain, it's not even a gain until you realize it. I mean, you know, values fluctuate. And so maybe you buy a stock, and in 2 years it goes up by 30%, but 2 weeks later it could be down 15% from that high. It's just, this is not something, until you sell it, you know, you don't have on the open market. So the whole thing is ridiculous. But
I think we've also considered, like we have been discussing about real estate. What does an investor provide? It provides a home for someone to rent, right?
Correct.
If you're taxing them an unrealized gain, so the house has gone up by $50,000 this last year, like we've had a bull run, you know, as we've seen in the last 12 months, you're expecting them to come up with that kind of capital, and of course the rent's not matching. It's not even worth doing. But they're providing a service otherwise the government would have to do, right? It's preventing the government from having to provide home housing, state housing, and having to manage it. I mean, that's the big one. It's one thing to build it; it's another thing to manage it.
Spot on.
And that's a process in itself.
How do I word this? Especially in America, you can see that there's a huge push that the government's trying to take everything over. They've fully drank the World Economic Forum's Kool-Aid. You'll own nothing. You'll be happy. Is this just another push to get all the investors and everyone out of America so the government can take over? So then the government can be responsible for where you live. The government can be responsible for what you do for work,
America
how much food
full on
you
communist, isn't it?
Well, isn't that just what the Democrats
what
are?
worries me, that could be the red wave, right?
Like,
you know, honestly, you know,
isn't that what Bernie Sanders is all about?
Oh, it's what he's always been about. And you know, when you've got Miss Word Salad, you know, 2024,
2.0.
oh my, she's just honestly, every time that woman opens her mouth, she just shows how poorly qualified she is. You know, we're replacing basically, you know, SpongeBob with this Word Salad, you know, mistress. Yeah, how could you have any security? How, as an investor, why would you invest in America in housing and those things and providing jobs, all that, when you've got these people at the top who just don't know what they're doing, and they're trying, you know, they're destroyed the energy independence of the US. They've destroyed, you know, they're talking about fracking. Oh, it's on, it's off. No matter how you feel about this thing, you've got to think about confidence, and there doesn't seem to be anything there.
Well, we saw the money leave New York and go into Texas, right?
Yeah.
About 6 months ago. We were
Hang on,
watching
isn't Texas a Republican state though?
It is, but
Doesn't that say something?
What I'm saying is that the money's going to more conservative opportunities,
It is.
governance, right?
Yep.
And so it's been an attack on the United States from within, internally. That's what's going on. You know, we won't, you know, do the border because we can't be bothered, and if we do go down there, we'll go to the place where it's not really happening, right? And nothing to see here. It's total manipulation and times the narrative, and of course they've been caught with the hand in the cookie jar. They are being caught out on what they're proposing now. The normies, the sleepies are waking up, and that's the exciting part of it.
Oh, very much, very much. I mean, look, when you look at the illegal immigration that's come into the US in the last 3.5 years, it's half the population of Australia.
It's just gotten so out of control now. It's just why would anyone vote for Kamala? It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, because
it's
the vibe,
identity politics.
It's about the vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think they're in. I think the Democrats are in behind the scenes in furor what they're going to do about it, because they know we can't put her in front of an interviewer, right? And if we do,
Can you imagine her in front of Trump?
No, they just did though. They just did.
That was CNN.
Yes,
right.
They're not
interviewers. And it was a 19-minute interview, and they wouldn't release the full transcript. So obviously, they have had some say in what can go out publicly, right?
Right.
So this is a concern. I don't think they're happy with who they've put there.
It's kind of scary.
They've got a
How
problem.
desperate are they going to get? Will they go to war or try and do something to postpone elections? Or
I don't
who
think they'll have a
knows?
choice.
You know what I mean? They have to play their hand now. They're in the position now.
Yeah.
Do they just leave it and let Trump come in, or do we just go crazy?
No. What we do is we have a last minute pandemic, okay, and we have to mail in ballots. Okay?
Monkeypox.
Yeah, monkeypox. Okay, we have whatever, banana pox, whatever pox we're getting this week, cocoa pox. I don't care.
Oh, you're not getting nailed for that one.
These days it would. But this is the only way. The only way in
And
my
then
eyes.
have ballots or something. mail-in
Yeah,
ballots
it's
again.
all going to be
But
mail-in.
it's such a one-sided. I mean, they'd have to cheat on a massive scale.
Well,
they did
I
last
think
time.
they did 4 years ago, but there you go.
Even more so.
Yeah,
to believe
true.
that.
So it'll be
True.
Niagara Falls this time
Yeah,
instead of
that's
just
right.
a slight hiccup. So, but let's look at this from the general American people's point of view.
Mm.
Again, a lot of them very poorly educated. Even though they've gone through school, they've got their degrees and all that sort of stuff, they don't understand how the systems work. So they don't say, "Oh, great, we get to tax the billionaires." Billionaires are going, "Oh, fuck it, I'll just send it to another country." Like
That's probably a massive
no,
overgeneralization. There's I see a lot of people interview people on the street. There's definitely
they are waking up.
NPCs there, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
people who know what's going because they feel it, right? The inflation and the cost of living of the last 4 years, etc. So now it's the chickens are coming up to roost.
It's okay to be rich in America. That's what you got to realize.
Yeah,
in
in
Australia,
Australia,
we
oh.
like to tear down the rich because we've got the tall poppy syndrome. You got to remember, you can't use that filter over there. It's completely different. It's kind of like, wow, you drive a Ferrari. How do you do that so I can work out how to get one myself? That's the mindset there.
Whereas here, they come up and scratch the side of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
you mongrel, why do
So-
you have this? Not fair.
The one thing I am kind of hoping, because I'm more worried about international politics than just the internal ones.
Mm.
At the moment, you have China eyeing off Taiwan. You've got Russia, Ukraine still dragging on, which was supposed to be like a 100-day war. You've got Israel in the Middle East going ape shit at the moment. I think what everyone needs to do is just like sit in their corner for a bit, get the
Yeah.
shit sorted, and then sort it out.
Chill out.
Now, if you have a look at Kamala Harris as the leader of the most powerful military in the world versus Donald Trump as the most powerful leader of the military in the world, Trump's more likely to hit the nuke button. So all these other world leaders that are eyeing off other countries, they don't sit down, shut up until he's done. This will give him a chance to get everything internally sorted out and then, just stabilize the economy, get everything working, drain the swamp and do what needs to be done. Where Kamala Harris, she'll just laugh like a hyena, go, China invaded Taiwan, that's fine. And then nothing's going to happen and we're going to end up with a
From a
genuine
Russian-
World War III.
From a Russian perspective, you would say that Putin would probably say that Harris is more predictable than Trump.
No, absolutely.
In terms of behavior and how they respond.
Yep.
And so that, in terms of the security of the United States, puts a lot of things into question as to who should be at the helm.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yes.
I think the smart medy's already made the decision. I heard rumblings that Jamie Dimon might join Trump in his as Treasury Secretary and things like that. So perhaps the smart money's picking the right one.
I agree, because I heard that rumor as well. So yeah, well, look, clearly,
Well, didn't Elon Musk throw 60 million behind Trump as well?
yeah, more than that actually. I think it's staged over 3 payments. About
Well, he gave it to
150
a
million.
Republican PAC. He didn't give it
Yes.
to him
Yeah.
directly.
Of course
but
not.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Well said. Gotta
So,
be
but
credited,
apparently
yes,
he's
yes.
also got a few mates that are also throwing in quite a hefty amount of
There you
money as
go.
well.
Mm.
Look, during
See,
this
I'd be happy
administ-
with 1% of all that money.
Yeah.
Just that's fine. Just throw us 1%.
Yeah, you don't want everything, mate. You don't.
I'll be nice. I'll share some around.
Look, during this administration, though, if you want to talk about wars and just the complete lack of ability when it comes to international politics, you look when they sent Kamala over there to Taiwan, right? I mean, to me, that was just poking China. What are they doing? Like, what are you doing?
They want
Oh,
war.
Pelosi, my
the
apologies.
elite, the
I was gonna
elites,
say Pelosi,
the
my
elites want
Yeah,
war.
they
It's
look the
profitable.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, you look at was it Raytheon and the military stocks a couple of weeks ago just shot through the roof.
Yep.
So it's
The-
they know
these-
something's happening.
Yeah, the experiment we did last week, that was amazing. Looking at the Google images.
Oh,
year
with
to
the
year,
dates. Yeah.
Oh, just crazy. I mean, it's just makes me feel like I'm literally living in the Matrix, but we have control of it. We have
Yeah, have
control of
fun with that one.
ourselves. Yeah.
So I reckon we throw it to Richie.
Mm.
Who do you think's going to win the election?
Well, I'm not going to just pick the prevailing narrative. Everyone backing Trump. I think maybe there's still a path for RFK because
Mm-hmm.
he has to just stop neither of them winning in their own right. So then it'll go to the Senate, and then they'll pick the president and VP. So that's an outside chance.
Oh, mate.
That would be hilarious. personally, like, I still want
Because
salami.
he's still on the ballot, remember, in all the
Yeah.
other states except the swing states.
I still want salami in.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah, that one.
Vivek
Salami.
Ramaswamy.
I thought he was awesome. He was well spoken. Made some really, really good points. I just like the guy.
Come look, 2028. That's I'm not an
Swamy.
American citizen. That's the man I'd be voting for. Simple as that, right? Or Tulsi Gabbard, right? Two.
She's come behind Trump now, hasn't
Yeah,
she? She's
she
back
has.
in.
Yeah, they're the two standouts as far as I'm concerned. I see America having a greater future with those two people than anybody who's up right now.
Well, it's interesting to hear the election narrative change a little bit in terms of make America healthy again with RFK backing him.
True.
And I think that's really, really interesting to watch because, of course, Trump's always, his focus is the nation as a whole, its military standing, of course, those who are destroying it. Robert's come in with a bit of a different perspective in that he's more concerned about the health of Americans. And he's very, very eloquent in terms of the stats and what's been going on. He knows he's right across it. And I think that's really, really exciting from American point of view to put that in the forefront and show this, how the pharmacy cartel has been attempting to run things
The
here.
Democratic Party, if they felt they could have controlled him, then he would have been their man. Okay, if he's got the right name behind him. Obviously, he's got the voice issues. Which
Would he get shot though?
He'll learn to run fast. That's for sure.
I sometimes think the voice issue helps him because it makes people stop and listen and actually listen to what he's saying, right?
Oh, didn't think of that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, valid point. Interesting.
So you don't always have to be loud like your shirt, Aaron.
That's one of my quiet ones. What are you talking about? All right, I reckon that's it for the show today. Look, thank you very much, everyone, for being part of it. For the people online, very quiet day, no questions, which is very strange. Oh, there we go. Coach, lovely to have a little comment there. Thank you very much.
It's funny, I haven't got my glasses on, so I have to zoom in the screen every time I put something up.
We normally get lots of comments. Maybe people are just shocked into silence. What's going on there? You can catch, of course, the replay of this on Sunday at 5 p.m. Otherwise, it's going to be up on the socials and obviously on YouTube and all those places you can catch whenever you like.
Oh, and before I run, because I'm officially old as of Saturday, 41. So a whole heap of people put comments and wishes me happy birthdays and all that sort of stuff. So I just want to shout out to everyone who commented. So thank you.
I even called you.
I know, but I didn't answer.
No.
I saw it was you. I was like, revenge.
And on that bombshell, that's the end of the show. Thanks for being part of The Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.